Good day, Philippines. Good day, everyone. This is October 27, 2021. For today's news, we'll talk about the difference between parole and probation. Ed Samuel Manyoso, Eric Nupada, at the news.
Now, let us find out what are the differences to these two. Probation and parole are privileged which allow criminals to avoid prison or to be released from prison after serving only a portion of their sentences.
Yes, partner, you are right. And also, the goals of probation and parole are to rehabilitate the offender and guide them back into the society, while minimizing the livelihood that they will commit a new offense.
That's why the difference between parole and probation is handed down by the judge at trial. It may be in combination with some jail time. The judge will specify restrictions on the offenders during the probationary period. While parole is granted by a parole board after the offender has served some or perhaps a lot of time, considers factors such as the offender behavior in prison.
I hope you get some insight about probation and parole. Two college students selected from Westmead International School were selected as representative in a school deliberation report with a theme of termination of parole. Let's watch the selected student of the criminology.
What's the difference between probation and parole? Probation is what you usually get instead of being locked up. It means a judge agrees that instead of sending you to prison or jail, you can go back into the community, but with conditions on your freedom. These conditions can include curfews, rehab programs, paying a fine, or having to check in with a probation officer every month or sometimes more often. Traditionally, parole comes after you've already served some time. It's an early release, but there are still conditions on your freedom until the end of your original sentence. Violating the conditions of your probation or parole, like drinking alcohol or missing appointments with your social worker, can land you back on the cell block even if you haven't committed a new crime.
In this chart, we can see the difference between probation and parole. First of all, the granting authority gives probation. Is the court. What court again? The same court that tried the case and gave the sentence. The parole was given by the BPP or the Board of Pardons and Parole. Next, when can probation be availed? It can be requested within 15 days after promulgation of judgment. Take note, yung word that is within meaning within 15 days. Therefore, after 15 days from the days the judgment it was promulgated, it is no longer possible to apply for probation. Parole can be availed after serving the minimum sentence. Let's proceed to the duration, where we find out how long parole and probation is, wherein if the case has less than 1 year penalty, the probation is not more than 2 years. On the other hand, if your case have penalty of more than 1 year, the probation will last more than 6 years. Meanwhile, the parole only lasts until you finish the maximum period of your sentence. For example, 10 years is your minimum and 16 years is your maximum. If you file a parole after serving 10 years, your parole will only last 6 years, because when you add 10 plus 6 is 16. What will happen when the probation and parole are revoked? First of all, when the probation is revoked, the probationer should serve his original sentence if his penalty is 3 years and he has already served 2 years under probation. When the probation is revoked, he needs to serve the entire 3 years of his sentence. In short, back to zero. But in parole, when the parole is revoked, he only needs to serve the rest of his maximum sentence. In our example, earlier it was 10 years minimum and 16 years is the maximum. When he has been able to parole, for example, for 5 years, and his parole is revoked, that only thing he will serve inside the jail is 6 years and not 16 years. The document that needs to be submitted in order to apply for probation is application form. And in order to apply for parole, you need to file a formal petition.
Probation versus parole. Post-sentence investigation. It's a report document that presents the findings and investigation into the legal, social background of a person. Background investigation are the term process of investigating criminal records, personal files, and financial records, and etc. Pre-parole investigation. The board's decision review unit upon receiving a parole. Grant of a life-term inmate. It initiates these investigations. Information is gathered to access the variety of the parole. As presented to the panel during parole sustainability hearing. Probation order. A probation order shall take effect upon its issuance, at which time the court shall inform the offender of the consequence thereof and explain that upon the failure to comply with any of conditions prescribed in the said order of his commissions of another offense, when granted. Probation order may be granted whether the sentence imposes a term of imprisonment or a fine only. Release document refers to the conditional pardon, absolute pardon issued by the President of the Philippines to a prisoner or to a discharge on a parole issued by board. Termination order. Termination order is an order of tribunal terminating a residential tenancy agreement or rooming accommodation agreement. When completed, after the contract is terminated, the parties to the contract do not have a future obligation to each other. Certificate of final release and discharge. Upon the issuance of the certificate of final release discharge, the parole or pardonee shall be finally released and discharged from the conditions appearing in his release document. Revocation order. It means either the partial revocation order or an order fully revoking a failure to file case trade order when revoked. To revoke is the way something to render some decree that is already been made unforceful or make something invalid. Example. An example of revoke is when a person or a prison sentence is cancelled and the prisoner is let be free. Order of arrest and recommitment. It means the different may be arrested pursuant to the order upon the certificated thereof in order country. The order need not be endorsed by magistrate or the country.
Advocate of set and reliable news. An advanced icon research. Your voice of truth and justice. With News Republic for latest news and updates. 59 days before Christmas. Happy weekend.